Welcome to the Lakers fast break, Lakers weekend. We started the weekend a little earlier than normal, but we've gotten some news here in the last few hours that would be that I thought was imperative to talk about here. I know Stone and Gerald had been on the show here earlier. I was traveling. Salute, Blue Magic. Thank you for being here. Anytime I can get a chance to talk to Stone is a good day. Trying to I actually didn't get a chance to listen to your final analysis on the how do you decipher someone becoming a good shooter. Although I can probably guess what you were going to say next. You were kind of getting into it before I had to meet family arrangements at the time. But since then as well, we're going to discuss. Now that I'm changing my name here, I'm listed as Gerald Glassford. I got to change that. Uh, we have heard an official note that the New Orleans Pelicans are going to relinquish their 2024 switch for 2025, which means the Lakers will now be drafting in this year's draft at number 17. Devotion, you know my response to that. Do you want me to say it? Stone, are you familiar with what I say usually when I'm asked?
I've heard it before, but I'll let you go for it.
Okay, you don't want to say it? Okay, I'll say it. If you want me to announce your divorce, you gotta let me see what your wife looks like. And I try to put it as clean as I could there without being derogatory. So again, with that, Stone, I'm gonna ask you a quick question on the official draft status now with LA, and kind of let you go on what you are anticipating now that this is official and what the Lakers will likely do.
Yeah, this is something I kind of expected for the most part. I I said it with Gerald, but I'll just say it again because I feel like it's worth reiterating. Is that I think this is the right move for if I'm the Pelicans. This is the move I would make because you are dealing with not only a better draft class next year. So let's say you end up with pick 25. I think you're still probably coming out ahead as opposed to pick 17 this year, or at least equal. At least from my perspective at this point in time. Things can change, obviously, but that's sort of where I'm thinking. And you also are kind of right in the middle of the draft, so you're playing the odds that maybe you could end up with a better, higher pick in a better draft. So we don't know what the Lakers' future holds. Maybe they end up being worse than they were this year. Hopefully not. But from the Pelicans, this is just the easy choice kind of to make. And I'd like to play those odds because even if you end up with a pick further back, there's still a chance you get a better value in a deeper draft. So this is sort of the right move for the Pelicans. As far as the Lakers, I think I said this with Gerald too at the time, but I do think that I would not expect the Lakers pick at 17 to be on the roster opening night. Whether they pick that player at 17 is TBD, but I don't. I'd be pretty surprised if I saw a rookie in uniform from pick 17 opening night. I think you're muted, by the way.
Sorry about that. Of course, I get on air and I start getting a bunch of text messages because it's before almost 5, and it's my crew. It's my crew. It's not. I can't ignore them. uh, it's it's looking like it's pretty clear that JJ Redick's going to be the head coach. Who the assistant coaches are going to be is going to be another situation. So the Lakers right now are basically telling everyone that we're going all in with this next LeBron run, whatever that is. And if that's the case, you are getting a LeBron coach, which I had mentioned that that particular marriage needs to be really discussed. I just wish it wasn't someone who hasn't coached before. And JJ Redick has a irritation bug with most people because he tends to say things that aren't things that I agree with. Now, there's plenty of people out there that I don't agree with, but the stuff he said is asinine. But I'll leave it at that. I've talked about J.J. Redick enough in that realm. So LeBron is going to be re-signed. You're going to give him the coach that he wants. I don't see how they're going to depend on a rookie or some hopeful in the summer that you get at the mid-level exception, or some kind of miracle you could work with a D'Angelo Russell sign and trade, right? So I'm going to take a pretty educated guess that the Lakers are going to go find a third guy with their assets. Now I've read that they're not wanting to move Austin Reeves. How they do this, I have no idea. They don't have anything other than Austin Reeves, Rui's money. If you can get D'Angelo to sign, you can sign and trade him. Although, Stone, if let's say July 1, July 4th, whatever, 7th, if D'Angelo signs, how long until you can trade him? Is there like a 3-month, 2-month, 1 month?
I don't believe. Well, I could be wrong, and I'm not the CBA expert, but I do think that. Are you saying if he were to opt out and then re-sign?
Yes.
Okay.
So he opts
Yeah.
out. He
I
opts
think
out, and
in
then
that case, I believe you have to wait until I think it's January 1st, I think, or December or January, I believe, is when they become trade eligible, I believe. But again, I'm not a CBA expert at this point.
yeah, that's something. If anybody knows this, again, I'm sorry if I don't. A lot of times these things get confusing, like the whole Vanderbilt signage. I didn't know that they couldn't trade him until the end of the year. That was something I haven't been able to get into, and I've been meaning to sit down and and really read the CBA. And then I realized, Stone, when?
If you have,
It's like reading the Bible.
If you have the entire summer,
or reading the Obamacare legislator, that's like 4 billion pages.
I think it's 700 something pages is what I saw.
Yeah,
and I'm certainly, I'm just looking for the cliff notes.
I can read 700 pages. The problem with 700 pages is, can you retain it the first time you read it? No.
That's the thing, is it's not a story where you can sort of piece together things. You're reading, I mean, basically bulletin points one after another for 700 pages worth, and it's pretty difficult to retain all that information in one sitting.
It's I'm going to use you as an example here, Stone. So Stone is still observing basketball, not as much as he was, though. So the reason why we rely on Stone, besides the fact that we respect and like Stone, that's usually helps, is that he's one of the few guys that we've known in and around our circles that has had the time to actually watch, learn, observe, assess without distraction. This was actually something he did. And it's very hard to find people in any walk of life that can do that. And it's not their fault in a lot of ways. It's just their family. They might have a family. They might have another job that they have to work to make ends meet. So it's important that we use this resource, as in Stone's knowledge, that and assess it to what's going on right now, because I think it's more imperative now than ever before, because the Lakers right now are in purgatory. They're in as big a purgatory as you can be. We know, as observers of the Lakers, I watched all 89 games that mattered. I even watched the 5 preseason games. And we're not really, the Lakers are not in a good spot as of May 31st, 2024, despite the now new official draft pick, because of several reasons. One, do we know if they're going to pick the right guy? Do we know if they're going to keep it? Are they going to trade it for something valuable? Jay going, trolling me and saying that they're going to pick Bronny at 17. See, it never ends. We don't, when you're in purgatory, if we're going to go by the Bible, since I already used that term, What happens when you're in purgatory? You're stuck between heaven and hell. And I've actually assessed Earth as a possibility of being purgatory, because purgatory can be good and bad. It's that we've got good things, bad things. We kind of live that existence here on Earth where we see a lot of good things, but we also see a lot of bad things. Well, let's correlate that with the Lakers. We have some good things, right, Stone? We have Anthony Davis, that's still, you know, good and great. LeBron, yeah, he's long in the tooth, but 25, 6, and 7 is not, bad. Then you have Austin, who's coming up on his own, and then you just had D'Angelo Russell, who had the best shooting season that any Laker has had, arguably. You have some positives. Rui, pretty good here and there. What the bad is, we're not winning. We're not in the finals. We're not competing at a championship level. So what happens next? How do we get to heaven? Or do we have to go to hell before this is done? I guess that's the question I have for you.
I think my answer is the way you frame it makes it sound really bad, but I'd rather go through hell to get to heaven than try and figure out a way to get to heaven directly in this hypothetical or metaphorical analogy. But
Metaphorical. There you go. Sorry.
yeah, that's the one. Yeah, I would rather tear down and start over than piece together what we have to make it work. If people want to know why, I'm sure they could go back and listen to previous episodes where I've explained it multiple different times. But I think for me, it's just we're in a position that it makes it really limited in the ways that we can go directly to where we want to go. Um, while keeping the core that we have. And I think that that's very difficult. You mentioned earlier the Lakers want to keep Austin Reeves. I saw that report too. Um, how? If you want to get a third star, the first thing they're going to ask for is Austin Reeves because they know LeBron and AD are untouchable for the Lakers at the current moment. The next thing they're going to ask for is the next best asset, which would be Austin Reeves. I don't know how the Lakers expect to get a third star without including him. I don't think they can, quite frankly, because he's your third best player on one of the better contracts in the NBA. I think it's very tough to get it. I think it's impossible, really, to get a deal without including him. So, um, in order for that to happen, you're sacrificing quite a bit of the depth of assets that you have, and you're really committing to whoever this third person is plus AD and LeBron. And for me, I mean it. Not saying that it's impossible that it couldn't work, but um, you a lot of things have to go right in today's NBA to be able to win with three stars and very little, if any, depth. It's very very difficult to do. I would rather start over and build through the draft again. As I've said multiple times, not that I trust Rob to do that, but we've had 4 years of trusting Rob to try and build around what we have, and I haven't really seen the results of that play out in our favor. So you have to trust him one way or another. Not that you're going to like it, but one way or another, you have to eventually say that we have to pick a direction here. And I'd rather start over sooner rather than later.
The issue with the starting over thing is if they sign LeBron to a 2-year extension, that means if you don't win it next year, you got to do it again the following year. That's a problem. If it was a 1-year deal where you kind of see what happens next year and then you at least can start doing that. You make a commitment now. Yeah.
I was going to just say that the real issue is that regardless of which direction you're for that you pick, you're stuck with most likely LeBron retiring as a Laker, meaning you can't extrapolate further long-term value from him. You're just going to have to end up really eating up that value and not getting anything in return for him because he's going to retire a Laker more than likely. So it means that because the Lakers love their stars and want to treat them right and all that, however much you want to say that matters or doesn't, at the end of the day, ultimately, objectively, it does hurt the Lakers long term, because you cannot no longer get value for him. He'll retire and you'll get nothing in return for that. I mean, obviously he provided us a champion, but I mean, in terms of on court value, you're not going to be getting anything in return for him, whether you pick staying towards this trajectory of trying to win now, or you want to rebuild. Either direction you pick is going to end up with LeBron staying. Now, rebuilding means you trade LeBron, but everybody knows that's not happening. So I'd rather just start building around what we have with younger players than trying to win now when you are really limited with that third star in the amount of depth that you're going to end up with.
Magic Man, Sean Grice has arrived and his toothpick. Welcome, my friend. So Stone is reiterating some things we've talked about not only today but also from past shows, and I think it's come to a head here where I don't think we need to continue to repeat, rebuild, or stay. We know what the answer is. The problem right now, Sean, is if you re-sign LeBron and make JJ Redick official, that means this doesn't end next year if it doesn't go well. That means we have to probably deal with this for 2, maybe 3 more seasons. That's very, very scary. You're not going to trade LeBron for assets or whatever. No one's going to trade for him, especially at that salary. So the Lakers right now are playing a very dangerous game, not only bringing on a rookie coach, but also re-signing your number one A or B or whatever guy who's limited and seems to have a stranglehold on this franchise, either verbally, behind the scenes, whatever. And there's no way out of it if you make the commitment this offseason. What the hell did the Lakers do now? Are we just going to sit around and enjoy LeBron's 10, 15 games during the regular season and then maybe 3 or 4 games in the playoffs and say, hey, we watched LeBron play? I don't give a shit about that. I'm a Laker fan. I don't care. I don't care. I saw Michael Jordan, Kobe, Shaq. I've seen great players play. I don't need to continue to see that. I want to see wins. So what the hell happens other than the obvious? What can be done to fix it? Maybe that's something we can talk about too. Right now, they make this commitment to JJ Redick. That means it's a LeBron coach. The other thing is, if that happens, that means LeBron's going to sign an extension. If the Lakers don't get a third guy, or they do get a third guy, we'll have to get into that too. How does that change things? Do we need a third guy that's so astronomically badass that he can cover a lot of deficiencies for them? I don't know if there's a player out there like that we can get. But what happens if it doesn't work out? And we'll talk about what happens if it does work out so that we're not sitting at the negative Nancy level here every time.
Well, rather than use a cliche slogan like a catch-22 or a negative feedback loop, I would say this is more of a Full Metal Jacket situation where you're in between your rational brain trying to understand what's going on here and the animal brain basically of the Lakers brass thinking that somehow, some way, we could still profit off LeBron James being a Laker, while at the same time there's this veneer that because he's had 10 coaches, right, in his career, but he's gotten to the finals with 5 of them, why couldn't he get another coach to an NBA Finals? But that time is come and gone, you guys. I mean, I don't need to tell you guys this. I think that time has come and gone. We're approaching, next year is going to be 5 years since he was 35, still in his prime, and help the Lakers win a championship. It's well past the expiry date as far as I'm concerned. And I agree with Stone. I think if you were just looking at it logically, you need to make peace with you're not a championship contender, no matter what lateral moves you make. And like you said, Joe, there's really not a player right now that we know of who's available that the Lakers can cajole another team or entice another team into trading with them, because the cupboard is bare. There's not a lot of asset capital left. You don't really have prime real estate as far as any budding young players. You have pretty good to okay athletes, but you don't really have anything in the cupboard that somebody would just hand over their superstar for. So I'm in agreement with both of you. I look at it as just it's Full Metal Jacket. If you go all in with JJ and LeBron, it's either you're going to empty the clip with what you have left, or you're going to end up blowing your head off. Because if this doesn't work out, then what? Because LeBron would be 41, 42. He's likely going to retire. Anthony Davis will be 32, 33. And I don't need to tell Stone this. Bigs, relatively speaking, unless you're somebody like Brooke Lopez, tend to have skill set decline, especially in the low post, because you lose your mobility. You're not as strong as you once were before, and your effectiveness goes down. So the Lakers are in a real problem. It's a problem matrix. It's, you're basically going to solve one problem and then create another one, even if you get a third star.
Okay, so we are getting the feeling on where the path is starting to go. They're not going to rebuild, Stone. So that's another thing we might need to not be talking about anymore. It's kind of, why are we shoveling snow into the ocean when sand in the ocean?
It's a good analogy too up here,
yeah,
Joe.
well, again, it's not going to work. It's just not going to happen. The problem here is, are we the only ones that know this? Are they all that delusional? Because for me, they're either all delusional or they're really not smart.
It's one or the other. It's one or the other.
I think there's a third option.
Okay.
By the way, hi Xbox parents. I think the third option is that we don't stand to gain monetarily from decisions that are being made, whereas the Lakers brass do. I think that's the third alternative in this, in biggest factor really, is that the Lakers stand to make more money by going down this trajectory than they do by rebuilding. And I think that they know that. I would be surprised, and I don't agree with much of their decisions, but I'm not going to just flat out say they're stupid. I think they understand that there's a shorter timeline down this trajectory, and there's thinner pathways to success with it. But I also think they factor in the monetary benefit of going down this trajectory way more than we do, because we don't have any stake in it.
Because it's not a full Brooklyn Nets situation from about 12 years ago, but it's fairly close. It's fairly close. Considering the fact that you still have a 2025 and a 2027 pick that it's out the door. So this is basically, you're right, Joe. It's basically, this is a plan until 2028, basically. That's basically when you can kind of say open sesame and basically just do a whole cleansing. But that's 4 years away. That's a long time. And what are you going to jeopardize in between now and then for the future for short-term gain?
They might be looking at this in the same way the Bulls look at it. And for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, the Chicago Bulls have been profitable even since Jordan's retirement. We're talking 26 years. And when you're making money while you're not doing the right things, what are the chances that you're going to start doing the right things? And then again, what's the right thing? The Lakers could be looking at this as, well, we led in every game in that Denver series. We could have won the series. We were one play away. We were whatever. But the theme of this year's playoffs has been that. Look at Indiana. Indiana should have been up 3-1. Lakers should have won at least half their games, maybe 3. You had the Minnesota Timberwolves come back from 20 late in the third on the road in Denver. So maybe that's what's going on behind the scenes. Maybe they're trying to create logic. Hey, if we just maybe get one more guy, maybe it's not a superstar, maybe it is, maybe the right coach puts them in the right positions. That might be how they're looking at this. And I don't know any other logical way to go about it. Go ahead.
I think.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No. Go ahead, Stone. Go ahead.
You were gonna. Okay. What I was gonna say real quick is, I think that basically undermines all of the Lakers' history, where it's just they go all in. I mean, this is the Lakers front office MO is go all in for stars. I think going piece by piece, let's add one more role player, let's add 2 more role players. That's just not who the Lakers are. It's not who they've shown to be. They want stars, and they'll do anything for stars, and it's worked sometimes, and in other times, in this case, it's working against us. So, but I think live or die by it. That's sort of the MO and the routes they like to go.
Yeah, I mean, as far as that, Stone's 100% correct. I mean, guys, remember, they didn't reward Rob Pelinka with a contract extension after he won the title. They rewarded him a contract extension after he acquired Russell Westbrook. So that's kind of Jeannie Buss's thinking right there, Joe. So Stone hit the nail on the head. They value stars and superstars. It's not a piecemeal acquisition structure philosophy. It's more build your team from middle out. You have a superstar or a bunch of stars, and then you build out rather than building from within. And like Stone has said, at times it's worked, at times it hasn't. I will say this. I think we got really lucky 2 years ago when we were in the right bracket. It kind of reminded me of the 2018 Blazers, where they just got in the right bracket and managed to win a couple of rounds. And by the way, it took them a game 7 without Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum playing the best game of his life to even get to the conference finals, and they got swept. I see a lot of similarities between what the Lakers did 2 years ago and that Blazers squad, is that you just ended up on the right side of the bracket and you managed to dig your way into the Western Conference Finals rather than glide into it.
And I think Oh,
Go
sorry,
ahead.
sorry.
No, go ahead. Go for it.
I think you can go further back to Jeannie when she first became like full owner, full time primary owner, and look at the fact that they started building something organically with pick two and pick two and then pick two. Right, they had 3 back to back to back, and then the first opportunity she traded them all away for AD because superstars. And again, I'm not saying it's necessarily the worst thing in the world, but that's just the track record of the Lakers is when a superstar becomes available and if the Lakers have a shot at that superstar, they're going to go for it. Regardless of, what trajectory they're currently on, they'll sacrifice that if it means they could bring in a star.
It's interesting. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, Joe, you had a really good point there about the Bulls, and it should be also noted that well after Jordan had left, the United Center, they invested in big renovations in that arena and in that area of Chicago. And I got to be honest, if you look at reviews of just not even attending a Lakers game, but going to a Lakers game, they're not good. They're not good. It's a bad part of downtown. I don't need to tell you guys this. You're more familiar with it than I am, but it's a bad part of downtown. That part of LA doesn't really get municipal funding that other parts of Los Angeles do. I don't need to tell you guys this either. You already know. So it's almost as if the Lakers want to be a better team, then you have to kind of build around everything outside of the roster. And Joe, correct me if I'm wrong, but with all due respect, I don't think the Buses are willing to invest the kind of money that the Bulls and Blackhawks were willing to invest in the city of Chicago.
Well, it makes sense, Sean. Chicago in the 90s were known as the San Francisco 49ers of the 80s in terms of first class amenities.
John Sally mentioned that, Joe. He said it was better being a Bull than it was a Laker. You got more perks.
And it was even worse in Miami from what he said, which is hilarious because Mickey is a billionaire. And it's always funny how I'm going to take a guess here that Michael had a lot to do with this. And of course, they catered to Michael. It shows a lot, though, doesn't it? It shows a lot when you take care of your people beyond just the money. But at the same time, you're kind of like, are you really going to complain? I mean, they paid Shaq. The Lakers paid Shaq $121 million in 1996. No one had ever done that before. So Kobe at one point, I think, was the highest paid player in NBA history. Short amount of time because then KG came, right? I think it was the year after that. It's hard to criticize there, but it does show kind of the next level thing. And as a participant in that area once, it was one of the easiest arenas to get to park. And you didn't have to have this whole fiasco. You can't do that at the Crypt. You got to either buy a $50 pass or park in the ass end of town.
Joe, can you repeat that, please? Did you say a $50 pass?
There are $50 passes there, yes. Now, I'm able to get there early typically and just park at a meter. And usually I'm there right after it's officially done for the evening. But yes, they do have $50 parking passes. Actually, SoFi is worse. I think I've heard some are 100. Dodger Stadium, I think, is at 40 now. I'm going to be going there in July, so I'll confirm that later. But yeah, the parking, and I'm not saying he started this, but it's the first time I heard it. Dan Snyder, former owner of the Washington Redskins, He was the guy that started at that time, the $20 parking pass. When you're sitting there going, $20, $30, I think I even heard once. Like, dude, I'm not even in the freaking game yet.
I'll walk half an hour from
You're
the
gonna
stadium.
like this. You're gonna like this. You're gonna like this.
$20 for
You want to
parking.
know what the best stadium I've ever been in terms of all that? The Oakland Coliseum.
Wow, that's amazing.
The Oakland I don't know what the hell people are talking about when it comes to the Raiders. Okay, I've been to San Francisco when Candlestick was there. That place was a toilet. Oakland Coliseum, I never had a problem there. I could get in, park, relatively short walk, get to the stadium. I sat with Raider fans with my shirt, Steelers shirt. I had full-on conversations with everybody around me. Not one time. And they lost both times in those games in Oakland. I never had a problem with Raider fans. Ever. Best football games I've been to, unfortunately, they lost. But in terms of fan interaction, I got along with Raider fans than I got along with anybody else. And usually, I shouldn't even say get along. I usually never talk to anybody, really, because I'm just watching the game and then I leave.
But anyway, I think the point we're just trying to get at is amenities are really important, and the fact is that it's like you said, Joe. It speaks to kind of it's misguidedness. That's what I'll call it. Like, I don't think it's stupidity on the Lakers brass part. I don't think they're stupid or delusional, but I think it's just misguided.
Well, this is an important topic, and I'm really glad you brought it up. I really, really am. Because think about the psyche. I mentioned two dynasties in this conversation, the San Francisco 49ers and the Chicago Bulls. The two most dominant dynasties of the last 40 years. I know the Lakers had a dynasty, but more often than not, people are going to vote for the Bulls being a better dynasty than the Lakers. I can't argue against it, even though there is an argument either way. But let's look at those two things, okay? First-class organizations. What does that do for your psyche? What does it do when you go in and you're dressed to the till? You've got a good diet, you've got good food, you've got a good suit on, you've got good gear on, whatever. You go into the game, you go into the image of what you're doing, and you're about doing it to the top of the level. That stuff matters, folks. That's why when I talk about the pajamas that they're wearing now on the sidelines, how does that set things up? Mike Tyson used to come out of the locker room with black shorts, black shoes with no socks, and a towel. He won fights the second he got out there instead of guys going. And again, Floyd Mayweather was extravagant and he never lost. So I'm not saying it doesn't work, but really,
it wasn't about the flash. Yeah, it was different than Deontay Wilder coming out in like a
right, and then using it as an mask, using it as excuse that my mask made me lose, which was about telling a 6'7" guy who can knock you out with one punch that was a pretty bitch move. Bitch, way to go.
You're right, Joe. Simplicity works.
Like, really? You're going to really come, even if it was true, you can't come out with that.
Klitschko, Tyson, even Tyson Fury, they keep it simple.
Well, again, so Stone has gotten closer to the NBA, let's say, culture than most of us. Does that affect things when you have that kind of environment? Does it play a part in winning and having a better organization? Because we're talking about the Bulls in the 90s. And I'm not saying they got out of that unscathed. You had the whole drama with Jerry Krause. Jerry Reinsdorf was kind of like Jerry Reinsdorf had a lot of Tommy Lasorda in him, where he liked to pit guys against each other because I think he got off on it or something. But what do you think about that, Stone? You think that really matters?
I'm sorry, I ran to the bathroom real quick.
It's okay.
But,
yeah. So what we're discussing is, does setting up an image, a high-class image, make a difference in these organizations? Because you're hearing a lot more detail of the inner workings of the Lakers, how they have like VCRs still. I'm
do you
joking about
remember?
that.
Do you remember that report that came out about? I would say probably around 2012, 2013 Stone, where a lot of free agents were saying, you go to the Lakers practice facility and, the equipment is old. The amenities are not good.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, to be completely transparent, I haven't had any conversations with, and well, let me back up real quick. I don't have a ton of NBA connections. I have some, but I'm not like the most plugged in person. But uh, on top of that, I haven't had many conversations about that, or really any conversations regarding this. But just like through my own thought process, I would imagine that uh, when you're a basketball player who's a multimillionaire, um, you start to become a little bit more materialistic, and things in arenas like that start to matter a little more. Your comfortability starts to matter because you're accustomed to what you have at home or with the team that you have, and what they offer. And if you go and as a free agent and go to a pitch where they provide less than that, you're probably going to have a lesser view off the top than you otherwise would because you've grown accustomed to the materialistic things that make you comfortable. Um, Again, I'm just, this is my own opinion, my own guessing here, but that's sort of where I would think they go towards, especially, I mean, I think, I'm fairly young, so I don't have a ton of life experience, but I think the further we get year after year, people tend to become more materialistic, and when you're accustomed and used to those things, and you don't have that in your new team pitch, it probably matters a little bit. Maybe more. Maybe for some guys it matters a lot. Maybe for other guys, someone like a Steven Adams probably doesn't care that much. But that probably depends person to person, but I would imagine that the percentage of people it matters to starts to grow as time goes on.
It's very true, by the way, and it doesn't start. It doesn't. It's not. It's probably worse in the pros and college. I'll give you a small example. Face masks in high school. The one we used to call certain face masks the World League face masks. They had these really weird shapes. If you remember, Greg Lloyd used to have that cage. I know Stone didn't pay attention back in the day, but I think Sean might remember. Greg Lloyd had this cage, and it was the design of the face mask was first introduced at the World League football, European football, NFL, before they got defunct. And I remember we would have those face masks in high school. I'm like, I'm not going to be wearing the World League face mask. I want the one that looks like Lawrence Taylor's. So I can only imagine the pros and how they would react to the simplest things. Like, I'm not going to eat that. That's from Chili's. I only eat at steakhouses. So yeah, for sure. And the relevancy of this discussion, folks, I hope you don't think we're off topic here, is we're trying to get an understanding of what kind of image.
Like a good example is this. Like Stone mentioned that the Lakers are, well, Gerald doesn't want me to use the term, but there's a 9 Inch Nails song that starts with star and ends with 7 letters that I'm not going to repeat, but that's essentially what the Lakers are as an ownership brass. Do you guys remember when they were in the run? Like LaMarcus Aldridge was a free agent at that time. He was hot. He was hot stuff. He had just come off a huge performance. Remember that performance against the Houston Rockets? Yes. Dame hit the shot, but LaMarcus was the reason why they won that series. And they brought him in, and it was a disaster. Right, Joe? It was just a complete... It was
the Tobey Maguire hour.
Like, they completely misread who LaMarcus Aldridge was. This dude is from Texas. He likes barbecue. He likes chilling at home when he's not playing. And they were talking about, sponsorships and star power and
You remember that in Entourage, right?
yeah, the LA lifestyle
Right?
and
Apple.
and yeah,
Yeah.
it was
Xerox.
very
Vinny
similar.
Chase.
Very similar, and they thought they blew him away, and he turned to his agent after the meeting was over. He's like, they didn't talk about what they're going to do on the court once. Not once. So they bombed it. And he was so professional in his response that they called his agent back and said, we want another one. Please give us another opportunity. He's like, cool. Unlike Kevin Durant, he has respect. He has respect for legacy and class. That's right, Kevin Durant. And he went back for a second meeting and they talked about basketball, but it wasn't good enough. It wasn't good enough because they blew the first one. And you only get one chance to make a first impression. And do you think they learned any valuable lessons from that, Joe?
I don't think so. And I think the common denominator there is what? Because you can't blame Rob for that, right? He wasn't there, or at least not in a management capacity.
Jeannie was.
Magic wasn't there. Jimmy was. Mitch was. Now, Mitch gets a lot of flack, especially from Gerald, for legitimate reasons because of the Mozgov signing and, of course, Luol Deng. But we still don't really know that. And things like that start to make sense on maybe there's something else. Because why would someone who acquired 3 players, one was obviously vetoed, but 3 players in a 7-year span, all of a sudden decide to go stupid out of nowhere? That was always my question. Who has been a problem since Dr. Buss has been gone? Really? Because we didn't hear anything bad about Rob Pelinka before he became a GM. He was Kobe's friend. He's Kobe's kid's godfather. All this stuff. All of a sudden, we're sitting here, we're criticizing Mitch, we're criticizing Rob Pelinka, we're criticizing LeBron, his ancestors, his kids, everybody, right? Okay, guys, what's the common denominator here? At the end,
Jeannie Buss was at the
and guys, it's the same response to any business that's not doing what it's supposed to do. How am I going to take you seriously if you are an owner, a boss, the decision maker, the ultimate decision maker in anything? How am I going to go blame the secretary over there, or the vice president, or the player guy, or the GM? That was weird. We get Sean back on here. Sorry, guys. I don't know what happened there. I guess we got a little too hot for the mic. But what exactly is the issue here, and going to continue to be the issue, is the decision makers here, and we got the first hint with Jeannie during the Dwight Howard, the first time, the Dwight Howard problem.
Stay Dwight.
Stay Dwight? Really? Kobe didn't go over there and go, what the fuck are you doing? Did you learn anything from that? No, doesn't look like they did. And maybe she's not. Maybe that's just not her thing, guys. Her thing is to smile, pet dogs, and
You'd have to believe she approved that, right, Joe? Like it had to go through her.
I can't even explain to you. If I was in charge of a business,
you would have fired that person.
I would have fired her before she even got into the building. I said, what? You're gone. I don't fire people, by the way. I've never really fired anybody, but that would have been someone I fired. And I really believe that wouldn't have happened anyways. I'm a proactive kind of guy. I'm pretty sure if you're around me long enough, you would have known not to do that.
But it just reeks of desperation.
And just understand
right?
too. I'm here to deal with the fire too. I don't throw my people into that fire and make them talk for me. Hell no. They'll come and suggest something. Hey, what do you think we should do this? No, we're not going to do that. And after a while, they're going to learn your habits. That was terrible, especially considering he left for Houston to go play with James Harden. That's how bad it was. But the image right now, I would say it's the LA Lakers. I don't know if this image can be tainted. If the Dallas Cowboys can continue to profit in what they're doing and sucking as much as they do, the Lakers are never going to really worry about money and this prestige. It's just, plus they have too rich of a history. Our issue as fans is we have to deal now with a stress for the next 2 weeks of whether 3 weeks, let's say, if these freaking green turds are going to win. If they win, this season becomes, even if they get what they want, it's still going to be a problem.
I have a question for Stone, because we've been discussing this over the past couple weeks, Stone. Want to get your input on this. So Buha was on a local LA radio station a couple days ago, and he was saying the reason why the Lakers are so enamored with somebody like JJ Redick is because they see a lot of Pat Riley in him. Like he's Pat Riley-esque. Now, when you think of Pat Riley, right, one of the first words that comes to mind is disciplinarian. You play. He doesn't give you he doesn't guide you to the water. He shows you a map and makes you walk, right? I don't get that impression, but from JJ Redick, like, what philosophically do you see from him that could translate into a good head coach, Stone? Because for the life of me, I understand that he is a modern mind for the game of basketball, and he would adjust to the kind of roster he has. But what philosophically do you see that would put him in kind of the air of Pat Riley?
I don't know about the air of Pat Riley, but I think you just stated it eloquently in that he's a modern mind who maybe can adjust more. Maybe that's what is the positives for him. I've been on the record on this show earlier today, and I think maybe a show prior, where I'm very indifferent to JJ. I'm not very strongly for him. I'm not very strongly against him. And that's sort of the case, I think, for me with all the names that were listed for the Lakers, where I don't really have a strong opinion of them one way or another until I see them as a Lakers head coach. Until I have results of what they can do as a Lakers head coach. For me, I don't think I'm being very objective if I'm coming into it with a staunch opinion one way or another, because I'm going to start looking at things where if I don't like him, and this is just me, not necessarily everyone that is against him, but like if I didn't like him, I'd start looking for things to help confirm my bias towards that. And if I really liked him, I'd start looking for things that confirm my bias towards that. So I'm trying to come into it with a pretty objective mindset that maybe he ends up being really good. Maybe he ends up being just as bad as Darvin Ham. I don't know until I see what it plays out and what he does as the Lakers head coach. To me, it doesn't bother me that he doesn't have any prior coaching experience. Like, I think that maybe that bothers more people than me, but for me, I don't really view that as a big negative, because look at like Steve Clifford. He's been a head coach for however many years and hasn't really achieved anything. So I don't think experience necessarily gets you any further, to where in comparison and contrast, inexperience, you might have some things you have to get over and get through, but maybe the end result ends up being better than an experienced head coach. I don't really know until I view JJ, and have a decent 30-40 game sample size of him to really have a really strong opinion of who he is as a coach.
So with a follow-up to that, Gerald and myself were having kind of more of a deep in the weeds discussion kind of about what you were just saying. And, when you look at his history, like Redick's playing history, he's played under coaches who really value like the high-low pick and roll. Like Stan Van Gundy ran it a lot with Dwight Howard. He went to LA. LA ran that a lot with CP3 and Blake, and Lou Williams and JJ were off-ball shooters that got a lot of open shots. Like, do you basically see the Lakers just having to default to that kind of offense now, Stone, where you'd have to rely on LeBron basically being the primary ball handler and him and Anthony running the pick and roll? Because that seems
Dope.
Yeah, must be. I know he has issues.
I'll fill in really quickly and answer what I heard from that while we get him back in. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah,
Finish
no,
your-
I was just I was just gonna say that seems to be the full optimization of the skill sets is LeBron in the half court running pick and roll high low with AD, but you need shooters, right? You need shooters around that. So do you see that as the default offense?
I think it's difficult to definitively say one or another without knowing who on this roster is returning fully. Like without knowing, what we have to work with, it's sort of difficult to imagine what the offense is going to look like at this point in time. I think I'll probably have a better answer for you, at the end of summer. But at this point in time, I mean, maybe Reeves stays on this team, maybe he's gone, and that changes something right there. Maybe D'Lo doesn't opt in and goes to another team. That becomes pretty difficult to, mess around with. So I don't have a good answer as to what the default would be because I don't know what this team is going to look like. But I do think that because JJ, to me, from an outsider's perspective, again, I don't really have hard lines drawn yet on him, but it seems like he's more open to things that are working in a modern NBA as opposed to just figure it out on your own. He seems to be someone that really values drawn up plays, that values, what is the most efficient way to get shots and what is the best for your team in a modern day scheme, because what was efficient when he was playing 10 years ago might not still be efficient now. So I think I like that aspect of JJ, of who my outsider perspective believes him to be. But again, I don't really know that is JJ until I see what he does as a Lakers head coach.
Excellent analyzation there, guys. Again, I want to thank you all for being here today. I know everybody's busy, but Stone is really busy. And we wanted to get the weekend started here with Gerald sitting on whatever island he's on right now, probably drinking Mai Tais and eating shrimp cocktails and living the life. My hat's off to you, Gerald, considering you're a podcast guy. I feel like you're vacationing every other month. What does this guy do on the side? I don't even know. But Sean, again, thanks for being on the show. Stone, thanks for being on twice in one day. This setup has to happen on a regular basis. We need to figure out a way to make this work. And I want to be able to make it work for more than 1 hour. But I'll take what I can get at this point. I want to thank everyone for being on here as well this early on Friday. I know some of you are just coming in from work. But if you guys have any comments, any questions, please email us at LakersFastBreak@yahoo.com. If you guys want to contact us in another way, I'm sure Sean, if you email us, Sean will give you his info. Stone can give you his info in terms of their social media. I know Upside Swings, I don't know, Stone, if that's a good spot for them to go to. Upside Swings on X. Sean has Sean, what is your X handle?
I'm not on X.
Okay. So
right.
Sean,
I'm on Facebook under Sean Grice. I'm under Instagram Sean Grice. What else am I on? I don't know.
Okay, good. So I'm on X. I'm Joe Soro LFB. I'm on Instagram with SinBlades_turf, and I'm on Facebook as Johnny Blade with the Punisher logo. Any questions, any comments, anything, you're welcome. Some of our audience have hit us up in the last day or so with messages. Thank you, folks. Again, you can message me anytime. I'm usually I'm like a high school girl with my phone, guys. That's how I conduct most of my business. So I'll likely be able to answer you right away, unless I don't want to talk to you. Of course, that's easy to say. But until the next one, guys, thank you for being here. Gerald, the Lakerholics, I don't know what their agenda is tomorrow, but if we can throw in some impromptu shows here and there, be on the lookout for those. I'll let you all know if Sean and Stone are on, or Gerald. But until then, have a great day. Have a great evening. If I don't see you the rest of the weekend, I'll see you on Monday. Until next time, we'll see you next time.